Wolfman and Girl Find Common Ground Hot Story, with a second part coming soon on almost HFY channel.
Raz strode through the docking tunnel, boots heavy on the steel grid, duffel slung across one shoulder. Gray-streaked hair brushed his collar, unruly against the amber station lights. Each passing worker nodded, and he answered with a quiet dip of his head, habitual, steadying. The air was thick with ozone and cleaning agents, but beneath it he caught 1,000 shifting scents: metal, fear, stale coffee, anticipation. At Dock 7, Ben leaned on a battered crate, rubbing sleep from his jaw. Lovis, arms folded, scrolled through diagnostics on her wrist pad, one boot toe tapping, impatient or hiding nerves. As Raz drew near, both glanced up. Ben's shoulders eased, eyes creasing. Lovis just breathed deeper, face smoothing out, an almost involuntary calm settling in their bodies.
Glad you made it. Ship's prepped, but Shell want a gentle hand on the drive till we finish your magic, Ben.
I'll treat her like a sleepwalker. Promise. Good to see you, Raz. Didn't think you'd get this much hair gray already. Raz cracked a brief grin, sharp canines flashing. His gaze flicked to Lovis, measuring. She shifted, just enough to catch the movement, then tucked her curls behind an ear, watching his hands more than his eyes.
Everything checks out on paper. You running the route plan tight, or do we get room to breathe this trip?
You'll have time. It's a month at crawl before the jump. Plenty to fix what needs fixing. And to get used to each other again.
The three stood in the neon half-light, the hum of station life muffled inside Raz's ship's lock. As the hatch cycled open, a hint of home, machine oil, wool, and the faint tang of new sweat spilled out. Ben's tension faded, his hands loosening. Lovis, for a moment, forgot to guard her smile. Raz's heart beat slow, steady, as he watched them cross the threshold. Every sense sharpened, cataloging their moods and pheromonal swirls. Ben's brittle hope, Lovis' worry edged with trust. He felt it anchor him, reminding, quietly, that saving others from loss had become the only way he kept his own at bay. Together, they stepped inside. The hatch closed, sealing them into the long dark, and the work and the bond began. Air hissed as the dock cycled shut. Raz checked systems by muscle memory, but his eyes tracked Lovis, catching every tap of her foot, every breath she held a beat too long. Her hand gripped her bag like a lifeline. She shifted closer as if to say something, then looked away, lips pressed thin. The lights threw narrow shadows between them.
You all right, Lovis? You smell off. Not sick, nervous. That's not you. If we're stuck in here for months, best to clear the air.
Lovis's shoulders rose, then dropped. She forced a breath. Fingers drummed her bag. She reached out, fingertips brushing his shoulder, quick and featherlight, then gone.
Raz, I'm nervous what'll do, not what you'll do. If I mess up, it's on me. Here for myself this time. That, and better than staring at a ceiling planet side.
He watched the way her jaw worked, how she hugged her bag tighter, a wall and a shield. Raz's mouth twitched, almost a grin, but tempered by restraint. He weighed a reply, feeling the old reflex to take charge, to steady everyone in his orbit. This time, he let the silence hang, measuring its shape.
We've got months. Nobody here needs to be perfect. Just don't go climbing the hull without warning me first, all right?
The overheads dimmed for departure. Lovis nodded, half smiling, then ducked through the hatchway. Raz watched her go, rolling her words over. Females. Always three meanings at once. He closed the door behind her, mind racing. A hum of the drive faded into background noise. Galley lights flickered low, throwing a gold sheen across metal counters. Raz poured 3 coffees, 2 black, 1 sweet for Ben, set out a battered box of station donuts, and slid onto the bench. Lovis sat across from him, posture composed but hands restless, fingertips rolling the rim of her cup. Ben grinned, snagged a donut, and excused himself, already rifling through his toolkit as he vanished down the corridor. Alone, Raz caught the shift, Lovis breathing deeper, her gaze flickering to his face, then away. He could taste her nervousness, muted but not gone.
Okay, about that. Last time we worked together, I fought myself for a week after. I kept telling myself it was just your pheromones. Swallowed it, tried to be scientific. Coming here, I brought backup.
She pulled a small brown bottle from her jacket and set it down between them. The label, medical, official, caught the galley light.
Zadine, blocks pheromone response, used it at the lab for, diplomatic projects. Doesn't change anything except it feels different. More real seeing you again. So we can keep going like last time, or I forget it if it feels wrong to you.
A flush crept across her cheeks, the same look she'd worn a month ago, sharing dinner on that rundown station. Back then, Raz chalked it up to proximity, his curse and bonus, all at once. Raz stared at the bottle, lips quirking with something between relief and wonder. He flexed his hands, caught off guard. Shed cut through the fog he'd always tiptoed around.
That's very straightforward. He paused, voice slipping low. I always tried to keep my distance. Most situations, they aren't real except for me. But if this is what feels right to you, I am in. Just in used to someone being that honest, I guess.
He reached across the table, fingers brushing her shoulder. Careful, brief. She held his gaze, then looked away, lips curving. Go get settled, Raz murmured, a real smile chasing off his old reserve. As she walked away, bag slung at her hip, he watched the tension ease from her back. Alone, Raz sipped his coffee and let the silence fill with possibility, thinking, maybe it wasn't just me after all. The galley sat quiet. Raz hunched a little, elbows tight, mug cradled close, not the sprawling, commanding posture that fit his frame. Shoulders rounded, he looked almost smaller, as if he could fold in on himself. He laughed softly at something Lovis said, warm but not loud. His voice, like his body, seemed to hold itself back. Even now, he checked the force of his presence, not too direct, not too near, a step removed from the center of things. Lovis watched him over her cup, saw the effort in every measured gesture. She caught the glances he sent her way, always retreating just before they met her eyes. She remembered that first job. How easily he drew people in, how he always pulled away the moment it got close.
You ever get tired of dialing yourself down, Raz?
The question landed in the quiet. Raz's thumb stilled on the mug. His gaze finally met hers, tired, grateful, almost shy.
All the time. Problem is, I wouldn't know if it's me they want, or just the sign around my neck. So I stay out of the way.
For a moment, nothing moved. The lights hummed. Lovis' fingers inched across the table, not touching, but closer than before. Between them, the distance shrank, a silent promise that maybe, just maybe, this time it could be real. The ship's hum settled to a softer register. Only the console lights cut the dusk. Raz stood at the counter, scrubbing a mug, Lovis leaning nearby, shoulder brushing steel. She reached past him for the sugar. Her hand close enough to graze his wrist. Neither moved for a breath. The scent of coffee and ozone coiled in the air.
Careful, Captain. If you keep standing that close, the pills might not help.
Raz smiled, slow. Just a flash of teeth. He stepped back, but only half a step, eyes lingering on hers. His voice dropped, gentle but edged.
Maybe I want to see what's real, pills or not.
She met his gaze, pulse flickering at her throat. For a moment, the ship felt smaller, every sound thick with possibility. Lovis grinned, shaking her head, then turned away, leaving the distance taut and alive. Ben leaned against the bulkhead, grease-smudged wrist pad in hand, pretending to scroll diagnostics. Through the open galley door, he caught Raz and Lovis locked in a dance of not quite touching and half smiles, electric, awkward, obvious. He shook his head, grinning to himself. They thought they were subtle, but even with 0 wolf nose, you'd have to be blind to miss it. The whole ship felt like a wire stretched over a flame. Sooner or later, something had to snap. Ben actually liked it this way. Maybe if those two let themselves yell a little. Let the tension burn off. He could finally get a decent night's sleep. He smirked, picturing it. Lovis letting loose, Raz finally dropping that leader act. Wouldn't be the worst thing. His thoughts drifted. Denny, joining at next waypoint, a little shorter, all velvet fur and sly grins, was a whole different equation. They'd danced around each other for months, culling across jobs, making excuses to sync schedules. Now she was coming aboard, and Ben's heart did a small, hopeful kick at the thought. He tucked his pad away, straightened up, and made for the crew quarters. For once, he wasn't the one tangled in shipboard drama, and with Deanie on the horizon, maybe the stars would line up for him too. Raz hunched over the nav console, blue light catching the silver in his hair. The room smelled of ozone, coffee, a trace of engine oil. Lovis' voice filtered through the calm, clipped, a little too bright.
Stabilizers recalibrated. If you break the grav again, you're doing my paperwork, Captain.
Raz smiled into the dark, thumb resting on transmit. The urge to answer with something unprofessional prickled under his skin.
Deal. But only if you show me how you juggle 3 diagnostics at once. Ships never run this sweet with me alone.
A static pause, and he heard her soft exhale. Across the bulkhead, nothing but steel and longing. Lovis crouched behind the core panel, torchlight flaring over her hands. Ben tossed her a toolkit. She caught it on reflex. You and the captain, gonna fix the whole ship or just keep trading compliments? Lovis ducked, half laughing, half scowling. Her hands stilled on the tools, pulse quickening.
Fixing what needs fixing, like always. Grab me the spanner, will you?
In the echo of their banter, she caught herself listening for Raz footsteps overhead, heartbeat loud as the pulse of the core. Raz checked diagnostics with Lovis beside him, elbows brushing now and then. Each time she leaned closer, his heart picked up. He watched her out the corner of his eye, afraid to let the moment linger.
If you want the seat, just say so.
She shook her head, hair falling forward. He almost reached to tuck it back, almost. Lovis replayed the console moment in her mind, his voice a little too soft, his shoulder solid and warm at her side. She wondered if he'd noticed her hair fall, if he'd wanted to touch her as much as she'd wanted him to.
Muttering to herself, next time, maybe just ask.
She gripped her coffee tighter, pulse fluttering. On the monitor, Raz's shadow crossed the hall, a comfort and a challenge all at once. The ship was quiet, engines purring a steady lullaby. Raz sat at the table, one foot bouncing, datapad spinning idly between his hands. He wasn't reading, just watching the nightlights shimmer across the screen. His yellow eyes caught every flicker, restless, half lost in thought. Lovis paused in the doorway, hair falling over one shoulder, jumpsuit loose from a long shift. She watched him, the way his shoulders slouched, the golden gleam of his eyes in the dim. For a moment, she just stood there, letting her nerves settle. Raz stilled, sensing her scent, her heartbeat shifting the air. His fingers slowed, datapad forgotten in his lap, eyes lifting to meet hers. Lovis took a breath and stepped into the light, bare feet quiet on the floor. She moved to him, each step measured, intentional. He didn't move, but his eyes followed her, cautious hope flickering behind the gold.
You always look like you're trying to solve something you can't say out loud.
She bent over, her hand brushing his shoulder, and pressed her lips to his. Just a moment, but all the hesitation melted into it. Raz froze, then let out a small, surprised breath, every muscle unclenching at once. His hands found her waist, grounding both of them. The datapad slipped from his lap, forgotten, as the world narrowed to the space between her mouth and his. Lovis pulled back, searching his face, her eyes bright in the low light. Raz, still holding her, managed a crooked smile, equal parts grateful and stunned.
I didn't see that coming. His voice barely carried, warm with wonder. But I'm glad you did.
In that small room, the air felt new. Something waiting, ready to grow. Lovis squeezed his shoulder, and for the first time, Raz let himself hope for more.
Lovis paused outside his door, heart thudding. The corridor vents leaked his scent, warm, wild, unmistakably Raz. She knocked, nerves tingling. His voice drifted through, rough and honest. Enter. She slipped inside, skin bare under a loose shirt, the amber night strips painting soft gold on her body. Raz was sprawled on his bunk, tablet abandoned, orange eyes glinting in the low light. He saw her silhouette, drinking her in without a word.
Hi. She lingered in the doorway. Want some company? I waited for you to react today. If this is okay.
Her voice sent a thrill through him, unfiltered, wanting. He'd sensed her in the air, not just her scent, but the calm thrum of her nerves. Not fear, but intent. For the first time, nothing about her felt like a passenger to his curse. He sat up fast, hand reaching, steady, sure, curling her in at the waist, hauling her down onto his lap. She gasped, laughter shaking through her as she settled astride him, bare thighs skimming his.
Yeah, I want.
The bed creaked. His hands mapped her hips, then lower, then higher. Her body arching, skin heating where he touched, a flush sweeping her chest. She let go, writhing, lost in his hands, his mouth at her collar, her pulse wild. He tasted her skin tracing lines up her chest, breathing in her honest want. Every muscle in him softened. He gave in, chasing her pleasure, each moan and gasp making his blood surge. Her scent was pure now, no stress, only the wild, heady proof she wanted him.
What do you want?
You. Frankly, she stuttered, grinning through it.
He grinned back, rough and real, hands everywhere, lips finding places she didn't know she craved. Her body bucked under him. He licked her, steady pace, face buried in her folds, laughter slipping into moans. He was relentless, her mind swimming, heat unraveling, until all she could do was cling. She stiffened, groaned, could not breathe, as all muscles coiled, then suddenly released, with a shout in his arms, breath fracturing from waves of pleasure. He continued until the storm passed, heart thumping under her cheek, her hands tangled in his hair, his breath still warm against her stomach, as her flutters stilled with faint jolts, moving her hips in circles.
I really needed that. Gods, you just made me explode. I haven't had anyone be that patient with me. And... She broke off, blushing, laughing into his skin.
He smiled, slow, unguarded, letting himself believe this was real. For once, every wall fell away. He kissed her again, gentle now, savoring her warmth. The world outside faded. Tonight she wanted him, and nothing else mattered. Lovis curled against Raz, her cheek pressed to his chest, breath slowing as her senses caught up. The heat of his body seeped into her, every rise and fall of his chest steady and grounding. Her hand wandered, slow, curious, no hurry to leave the moment. Fingers traced the line of his ribs, lingering on muscle and bone, the shifting architecture beneath his skin. She mapped old scars, the slope of his hip, the faint bristle of hair. A quiet giggle slipped out when her palm drifted lower, discovering proportions that drew her eyebrows up, then a conspiratorial grin.
You're built different, you know that? She murmured, planting a kiss under his jaw. I mean, impressive, all of you. Her eyes sparkled in the amber light.
Raz rumbled a laugh, the sound low and loose in his chest. For once, he let himself bask in her attention, the marvel of being explored and appreciated, not just endured. She shifted, legs tangling with his, and rolled him gently to his side, pressing close, their bodies a tangle of warmth and trust. Her lips found his ear, words feather light.
Your turn, she whispered. Let's see if you can do that to me again.
For a moment, the world held its breath. Raz's eyes flashed golden in the low light. He rolled with her, laughter spilling between them, hands already reacquainting themselves with the map of her body. Eager and careful all at once, her breasts moving in his hands, nipples stiffening to his touch. Sheets tangled, limbs entwined, their laughter rising with the slow build of heat. New but now familiar, each touch an answer, every gasp a promise. In this hush, wanting was a gift, and giving was all that mattered. He rolled over her, careful to not be rough. He felt her warmth. She whispered to him, "I'm not fragile. Just give it to me, don't be afraid. Stop that careful side of yours now, please." She steered him down, pulling his stiffness into her, moaned as he entered carefully, then sank. She felt him shudder when she lifted her hips slightly to accommodate his size, clamped her muscles while thrusting up against him, then fight him from leaving, loosening when he plunged down deeper until she had eaten all of him without effort. After a few strokes, he stopped, and she frowned lightly.
Go on, that is nice. If you think it hurts, you are wrong. I will come again if you continue. Stop fighting yourself.
He continued thrusting in her for the first time without that gnawing feeling that he would be too much. She seemed to have no resistance. She continued to work her muscles to feel, not fight, he realized. She murmured something unreadable when he used his hand to work her sensitive parts and writhed as he nuzzled her ear. He felt the tension start in her again, and she bucked up against him with forceful pushes. She grunted. He felt her face wrinkle against his chin. Then she came again with a jolt and a guttural stutter. He felt a wave of contractions around him. He realized that he could take this one, but not much more, and stopped after moving with her waves of fading contractions. Her breathing catching up, body slacking against him, and she winced in his ear.
Gods, that was amazing. An explosion. And you are still not done. That's unusual, and very nice. Let's see if I can work through that stubbornness of yours.
Lovis slicked free from the tangle of limbs and blankets, stretching with a slow, feline grace as she stood beside the bed. Amber light caught the curve of her back, her silhouette dancing across the wall. She leaned forward, elbows pressed to the mattress, hips swaying just out of reach, a challenge in every motion. Raz watched, pulse skipping. He pushed himself up on his elbows, gaze tracing every line of her body. For a moment, neither moved, the air between them thick with possibility.
Come on, she whispered, glancing back at him, lips parted in a teasing smile. Don't resist. Let it happen, let the feelings out.
He entered her from behind, marveling when he felt her clamp down again and push against him. Hard, defenseless, easily taking all he had to offer. Hips bouncing against him, and each stroke more powerful, using her muscles to work him. She rubbed herself hard as his breath increased. He started to tense, hesitate. She didn't care. She worked harder instead. And she came again, softer this time when he erupted, with large spurts, deep inside her. He crashed down, breath ragged against the bed. Mind blown by her resilience, she followed, still joined with him, he realized, her hips moving to prolong the come-down.
I don't know what you're made of, he murmured, brushing her hair from her cheek. But you're something else. I've never felt anything quite like that before.
You make it easy. She traced a finger over his collarbone, lips curving. I never knew I could let go like that. Never had anyone match me with stamina, nor 3 times in a row. She smiled, softer now. You don't have to hold back with me. I had to work you really hard, actually. You are very resilient.
His laugh rumbled quietly against her as she nestled close, limbs tangled beneath the covers. She kissed him, slow, lingering, then let her head settle in the hollow of his shoulder. her body sinking into his warmth. He felt her calm, sated, and safe, and finally let himself believe it was real.
Morning bled into the cabin, pale light slipping across tangled sheets. Raz blinked awake, arm draped over Lovis. Her hair fanned across the pillow, wild and golden in the soft sun, her body curled trustingly against his. Lovis murmured, then stretched, slow, cat-like, turning to face him with a lazy grin. She sat up, hair tumbling down her back, and glanced at him sidelong, eyes bright with mischief.
I want more of that tonight, if it's not too much for you.
Raz felt something loosen in his chest, this woman, fearless, needing every part of him without flinching. She didn't just accept his wolfishness, she welcomed it, answered it. He smiled, slow and honest. She leaned in, brushing a kiss over his cheek before sliding from the bed. Shower? She asked, tossing a shirt at him. He grinned, following her down the corridor. Two silhouettes, close as laughter, sharing sleepy jokes as hot water washed the night away. They dressed side by side, exchanging shirts, bumping elbows, quick glances full of last night's heat and today's ease. In the galley, Ben lounged with his mug, eyebrow arched in silent appraisal as they entered together. Hair damp, eyes bright, smiles impossible to hide. Finally, some order around here. He sipped his coffee, smirk lingering as he slid them a plate of toast. Lovis squeezed Raz's hand under the table. Breakfast tasted better than it had in weeks, easy, shared, the whole ship a little lighter for what the night had given. The galley buzzed with morning energy, Ben telling some wild story, Lovis snorting into her mug, Raz shaking his head, lips twitching. Plates clattered, coffee flowed, sunlight or what passed for it in space spilling gold on steel. Raz rose first, rolling his sleeves, nodding to Lovis. She grinned, grabbing her toolkit, already anticipating his stride down the corridor. Ben tossed a half-eaten biscuit their way. Don't break my drive, you two.
No promises. You remember what happened last time someone let you near a spanner?
I recall. Ship ran smoother, except for the part where you rewired the music system to play marching band at 0600.
They crossed the deck together, laughter trailing behind. The doors to engineering slid open, the familiar tang of ozone and lubricant greeting them. Tools were already spread out, Lovis' careful chaos, Raz's neat stacks colliding. She knelt by the open panel, hair tied up, grease already smudged on her jaw. He hovered at her shoulder, hands ready. She nudged him with her elbow. You gonna stare or hand me that Hydra spanner?
Thought I was here for moral support. But sure. He passed her the tool, letting their fingers brush.
Circuits were swapped, old relays replaced, diagnostic lights blinking. Lovis muttered to herself, then called out specs, Raz answering, hands steady, sometimes catching hers mid-motion to guide a wire or steady a bolt. The upgrade moved fast, two minds locked together, running on shared memory and new momentum. Every now and then, Raz cracked a joke. Lovis rolled her eyes, but her laughter echoed in the engine bay. Hours later, sweat damp and satisfied, they wiped down the last panel and leaned back, admiring the humming drive.
You know, we're a pretty good team, even if you keep stealing my wrenches.
Consider it payback for the marching band. Besides, gives me an excuse to stick close.
Lovis grinned, grease-streaked and glowing. Raz bumped her shoulder. The hyperdrive thrummed, the ship ready for anything, and so were they.
The ship was quiet, most of the crew asleep. In Raz's quarters, the air felt close, safe. Lovis shed her shirt with practiced ease, then crawled under the covers, sliding against his side. Her skin, warm from the shower, fit the curve of his body, her hair spilling across his shoulder. She nuzzled into his neck, the line of her thigh brushing his hip. Raz wrapped his arm around her, but the puzzled look didn't quite leave his face.
Can I ask you something? He drew in a breath, eyes searching hers. You seem to take all of me like it's nothing. I mean, I'm not exactly standard issue, maybe twice what most humans have. Does that ever? He fumbled, half laughing. Is it ever too much?
Lovis propped herself on one elbow, her smile soft but mischievous. She stroked his chest, letting her fingers trace the contours, clearly enjoying his confusion.
Size in men. She rolled her eyes, teasing. Imagine this. We can give birth, right? So a lot of what matters is tension and angle. Let me show you.
She straddled him, slow and confident, settling with a small grin.
See, this is where most would say, stop. But if I shift.
She rocked her hips, adjusting her angle, her body relaxing into his.
There's room. It's not about stretching, it's about letting go. We're built to adapt, from very small to, well, let's just say, not so small, as every human is different, not just you. Violent is always wrong, hurts like hell if you hit my cervix, right here.
She stopped halfway or so, showing him, then eased again. He felt the ridge she moved against.
But this is good, very good. Explosively so. It's actually more pleasant this way, with something really big, wide. I never knew how easy it could be until I stopped worrying about being too tight or something being too much. And if I use my muscles like this, and follow motion, I come easily from stimulating the whole canal. And when you do what you did last night by rubbing me at the same time, I explode. Afterwards I need peace for a while, but I can go again as you noticed. Maybe weaker the second or third though.
He grunted and grinned as she moved her muscles and basically sucked up and down. She grinned and started moving faster, to soften him up a little, knowing that he was a hard nut to crack. Raz let out a slow breath, his hands settling gently on her hips, steadying them both. The heat in her body was obvious now, the tension replaced by easy laughter and trust.
So, want more lessons, Captain? Or are you going to do something useful with all that curiosity?
He grinned, suddenly feeling entirely at home in his own skin, letting her lead. Ready to learn, and ready to give her exactly what she asked for.
Let's try something that is harder to resist for you. I'm going to fuck you like a man, as you are large and long, and make myself come, of course. You are not allowed to touch me.
He grinned, confused about what was next. She bent his knees toward him and wiggled down on him, leaned forward and started moving fast. He felt her use her muscles in that gorgeous way that made his senses tingle all the way down. She waited, focused on his face until he started to pant and grunt. She leaned slightly back to focus on her inner ridge, then started rubbing herself hard when he winced. She tipped over the edge when he closed his eyes, cursed, then exploded in her with a powerful grunt, almost growl. She bucked forward and quivered as the hard stimulation made her come violently, with several loud grunts, and she crashed straight down on him, her breathing ragged and her stomach twitched. She lay sprawled and boneless against his chest, breath slow and deep, his arms a cradle round her. Raz looked down at this small woman with the enormous heart who had just unraveled his world, his hands stroking slow circles over her back. Time blurred, maybe half an hour, maybe more, before Lovis stirred, lifting herself on one elbow, her hair a wild halo against the sheets. She caught his gaze, a crooked grin tugging at her mouth.
Gods, that was different. I didn't think it would be that intense. Just because I could focus on you and really work myself to a fusion-grade bomb. I told you not to touch me, just so I could, well, focus. Sorry about that. Also, I might have peed on you, I think.
He laughed, quiet, warm, all wonder and no shame, pulling her close again, the morning light simulation painting both of them golden. Nothing felt wrong, only right, only real.
I have never experienced that either, like a bomb going off, and I couldn't stop it. And if you peed on me, who cares? As long as it felt good for you. There are showers.
She smiled wide.
That was the point of it. Amazon position is used for that. Give the woman control and stop your muscles from inhibiting. It clearly worked on you, as you came like a shotgun blast in me.
Yeah, I think you drained my spine. It was much better than anything else. Really amazing. You are amazing, girl.
She smiled wide when he kissed her until they both ran out of air. He smelled her hormone cocktail and filed it under home.